What happens when someone else's self-typing diagnosis does not match how you see them? What do you do in that situation? What do I do in that situation? What should you do, and why does it happen? Coming up. What's up, legend? It's Sherman here from Geek Psychology, helping you find your true character and level it up so you can play life better. I'm an INFP living in Japan. I've been here since I was 18, except for 3 years. I'm 36 now, and I've been on this quest so that I could understand myself better, so that I can learn to control my life. If that's something that you're interested in, check out the I Now Feel Positive program, especially if you're an INFP, because it's specifically designed for you. I just want to talk a little bit about, first, my experiences with this in two folds. One, as a YouTuber, a lot of people, watch my videos, and I find that fantastic. I'm extremely happy for that. And a lot of people have opinions about me. That's their opinions, and they push it on me. So, some people say, oh, you're definitely an ISTP. Other people, you're an FJ, because you seem to have this big care for the broader world, and, you're smiley or something like that, whatever the stereotype is that they're going for. Other people are like, well, there's no way you'd be an introvert because you're doing all this. You have a little bit too much energy for an introvert. Which is pretty funny from my perspective, because I feel that I'm mustering everything I can to do these videos in terms of energy. But also in my experiences in Japan, because I've been here for so long, and also because of how I look, people assume that I'm Japanese or born in Japan or half Japanese, and it's kind of interesting just to see how strongly people hold on to their viewpoints of things. I'm not Asian in any way. I'm just this weird concoction of Irish and German, and I think some Sioux Indian in there, and it's me. That's what it is. But it's very interesting when people are like, are you this? You must be this. You must be this. In whatever realm that's coming about, and having to defend yourself against that because people's opinions come so strongly. Sometimes it does kind of rustle my jimmies a little bit when people assert so heavily that no, you're not an INFP. You're playing one so that you can prey on us and take our money, which is something that people have said to me. And it blows my mind. So I want to talk about, why does this stuff happen, right? Why is the system so complex, and what you can do about it? And my approach when I'm profiling somebody and doing a personality assessment. But first up, why do we mistakenly assess ourselves? I was going to say misdiagnose, but I think that's the wrong word. I don't want to consider it a diagnosis. That feels kind of strange. But why do we make mistakes with our own self-assessment? Well, first up, it is a self-assessment, right? And so it's based on your experiences. And a lot of times it's, what is that ego state, that part of you that's running the show at the time. Like when you're hungry or thirsty and you go to the fridge, and then you're like, what was I doing in here? Why did I go to the kitchen? And you just completely forget about it. That's a different part of you that you've logged onto, a different character that you've logged onto, that's said the command, and then one that, was there when it was time to do the actions and they were not communicating properly, let's say. A lot of times when we do self-assessments, we are in a certain state. It could be from the environment, your work, your family, or something like that. They're pulling, tugging, pushing on all these different aspects of yourself, and then you're taking a test, and it feels kind of strange. You're just like, okay, let me just make these blanket assumptions. Am I this or this? And you got to delve in through all of that, and there are a lot of different things that are poking and pulling different aspects of yourself. And so one, you could misdiagnose, you could misassess yourself based on which aspect of yourself is up front, which you've logged onto when it's test taking time. Next, it's a complex model. The Myers-Briggs model is pretty complex, especially if you're going into the cognitive functions below that. It doesn't have to be that complex, which is something that I try to do here, but it is. There's a lot of different aspects and different things that most of us don't actually think about a lot through our daily lives, and unless you get into this stuff and you start learning the language for how to understand these different models and these different ideas and concepts and experiences, right? Before that, you don't know. It's water to a fish, right? You don't know that all this stuff is going on until you gain the language to see and the concepts to see that the world is a little bit different for you and for this person and for this person. Also, we are pattern and experience privy, right? Like we have spent a lot of time with ourselves. And so when you're taking an assessment, you might say that you are more of this or you're more of this because you are tapping into a specific, experiential situation that you had. Like, oh yeah, I went to Japan and this was the thing that happened and this was my life in that highly emotional setting, and that's the thing that comes to mind when you're filling out the answers. Also, pattern wise, like if you are a sensor, you might actually kind of struggle with some of that, like connecting up, like, well, what is the actual pattern throughout my life? Like that's not where you spend most of your time. You're more into the actual day-to-day experiences, right? And because of the environment, that might be a thing that is heightening some of the responses to your questions. Also, for FI types, for the FPs within the Myers-Briggs code, we see a lot of different aspects of ourselves. Especially if you're an IFP, like you spend so much time trying to understand what this mix of different states and feelings, all this stuff is, and these values, right? And you go to deep lows, you go to some high highs, and you're trying to figure it all out. And you probably can see yourself within many different personality types. Like, oh yeah, I can find that within myself, right? I can understand that. I can see that I would do that in that situation, or yeah, I've done that before. So those are some things that could complicate the self-assessment process. So why do we mistake other people's personality types? Or why do we feel firmly about some assessment or evaluation of them? Well, a lot of it is because we're thin slicing. We've met a person, known them for, 10 minutes, half hour, an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is. And we're like, okay, I know the pattern of your life. And sometimes it's easier to type somebody if you haven't known them for a long time. But this thin slicing of the experiences and just saying, well, in this snippet of time, this is my assessment of it. It's not fully fleshed out, right? Especially if you're watching like a video that I've made on YouTube that's edited and prepared for, right? Usually prepared for. You're seeing this ego state that's come out, this aspect of myself that I want to highlight a little bit more within the videos. And if you're making an assessment on that, or a celebrity, or somebody that you're seeing different aspects of them that they might be highlighting intentionally. Another reason we might mistakenly assess is because we haven't dug deep enough into the motivation underneath the action or the thought or the behavior, whatever it is. Like we all have, anybody can catch a ball, right? Anybody can catch a ball. It does not take an SP type to catch a ball. But how do you do that, and what are your motivations for putting yourself in that position to catch the ball, right? Like an extroverted sensor might zoom in and see the laces on the ball and be really in the moment and kinesthetically just know how to work their body to catch it and put themselves where that ball is going to be if you're pulling on a little bit of introverted intuition too, right? But extroverted intuitives can catch balls too, right? It's not like I can't do it because I don't have that cognitive function as one of my, main skills, right? But I wouldn't necessarily be pattern recognizing the whole time and saying, okay, it could go this way, could go this way, could go this way, could go this way. Let me just zone in and predict all these possibilities and then find myself magically in the place to catch the ball. That seems ridiculous, right? So you have to access different cognitive functions for the task. And you might be seeing that as well. And you also might not be checking in with why are they actually doing those things? Why am I someone who wants to be on time, even though I'm a perceiver, right? Well, because it's an assessment of who I am as a person. I've attached that to my identity as somebody who is on time, or somebody who makes these videos because it could help somebody else, right? But other people might see it as, oh, you're a judger because you're worried about the structure and the plan, right, to get things done, right? But by diving deeper into the reasonings underneath that, you get more of that why, and you get the understanding of the actual process and what they're doing, which cognitive function might be coming out for that. But you can't do that all the time with everybody. Another one is we tend to see different aspects of ourselves projected onto the other person. If we really vibe with somebody, or we see somebody that we're like, oh, this person's a lot like me, based on their opinions or whatever the experience is, a lot of times we kind of attribute that to, oh, well, they probably share the same cognitive functions and the same outlook on life that I do, and so they're probably this personality type. Likewise, if you see somebody and you're like, oh, I just don't like that person, you attribute maybe negative aspects onto them or weaknesses within yourself, maybe your inferior function, maybe stuff in the last 4 functions, and then you're just like, this is my assessment of that person. But it could be the same personality type as you, just they have a different slant to it, a different way of doing things, or maybe even they're just at a different stage in their life, one that maybe you have ignored about yourself. Something that happened and you got past that and just kind of erased it from your mind, when really they're still going through that situation. It could be a lot of things. And that comes back to that thin slicing, right? So what do I do? How do I approach possible type conflicts in terms of, this is your assessment, this is my assessment? A frame that I bring into this is that I don't need you to believe my type. I'm here to give you as much expertise and information as I can. And if this is where you are at the time, if this is what you feel is your type, you could be very right. You might not. But it's not my job to convince you that you are a certain type. And that can be kind of unsettling for some people. Because they're like, well, you're supposed to tell me who I am. Who am I? And I'm like, well, I've known you for this long. In this thin slice, I'm making an assessment based on an evaluation, based on what I think it is, what I feel it is, the patterns that are coming up for me. And if you can have that type of deep conversation with somebody where you really get to know why they do the things they do and the underlying reasons for it, and flesh it out, even if it's a friend, you're going to find out some amazing things about them. And it doesn't really need to be like, I'm saying that this is your type now. If you're this, if this is what you think you are, that's where you need to be right now. That's what the world is asking of you right now. And do it to the best of your ability, but stay open, right? Stay open for new ideas, new possibilities, new ways of looking at things. So given all this, what are you going to do next time that somebody says, oh, I'm this type, and you're like, are you sure? What are you going to do in that? Are you going to just force them into accepting your opinion? Are you going to give them other suggestions, other patterns, other ideas? Are you going to say, well, tell me about that. Why do you feel that? You know, let's talk about it. Let's go into the experiences of it. And why did you do that? And why did you do that? And when you did that, what did that give you? What's that underlying motivation? Think about it. Or don't. It's completely up to you. If you like videos like this, please check them out over there. And keep up the lifelong questing. Good luck, have fun. Peace. I got a little wobbly there.